Are you not entertained? Is what I imagine Ridley Scott was saying to test audiences while making this movie. Hi everybody, Anthony here from Awesome Anthony Productions, and today we're diving into a sequel over 20 years in the making, with Ridley Scott returning to the director's chair, Gladiator 2. But before we get started, you know exactly what to do. At the end of the video, if you think I've earned it, please leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss any of my new reviews. Now let's get into it. Gladiator 2 doesn't stray too far from the first film's blueprint. It's a revenge story, a pretty familiar one, but minus a bit of the political intrigue that elevated the original. This time we follow Lucius, the son of Connie Nielsen's Lucilla from the first movie. Funny enough, the original actor for the young Lucius, Spencer Treat Clark, is still acting. I remember last seeing him in Glass. Guess Ridley Scott wasn't paying attention to his IMDb page. Anyway, Lucius is lying low in Africa with his wife when the Roman forces, led by the general Acacius, played by Pedro Pascal, attack. Tragedy strikes, Lucius' wife is killed, and he is sold into slavery. He eventually becomes, you guessed it, a gladiator, forced to fight in the arena under the watchful eyes of psychotic twin emperors, Gita, played by Joseph Quinn, and Caracalla, played by Fred Hetchinger? No idea if I pronounced that right. Meanwhile, former slave Macrinus, played by Denzel Washington, is scheming behind the scenes to take Rome for himself. Gladiator is a classic. In my opinion, it's one of the best movies ever made. Naturally, Gladiator 2 had some massive sandals to fill. So does it? Well, mostly. Let's start with the performances. I thought that Paul Mescal did a great job as Lucius. He's commanding in the action scenes, he gives the role emotional weight. Mescal's performance is solid, though it doesn't quite reach that iconic status as Crow playing Maximus. Pedro Pascal is a very interesting addition here too. He starts as your classic villain, you hate him and his military complex, but then as the movie goes on, they start to humanize him and you start to sympathize with him. And his relationship with Lucia here adds a lot of depth to the character, which makes him way more than just a mustache-twirling bad guy. Yeah. Joseph Quinn and Fred Hetchinger absolutely chew the scenery with their role as twin emperors. Their dynamic is fascinating. One is completely unhinged and ready to explode at a moment's notice, while the other is still pretty unhinged but tries and fails to be the voice of reason for the other crazier brother. That said, even though I enjoyed the dynamic here and I thought they were good characters, none of them really reached the heights of Joaquin Phoenix's Commodus from the first movie. He brought a quiet menace there that really made him feel unforgettable, especially with the horrible stuff that he does in that film. And then there's Denzel Washington. Best freaking character, hands down. He absolutely steals the show here. His performance is magnetic. He's charming, calculating, and his motivations are just ambiguous enough to keep you guessing throughout the entire film. Is he an ally? Is he an enemy? You never quite know up until a certain point, and it just makes him all the more compelling. Add in a few killer monologues, and Denzel once again reminds us why he's one of the GOATs. That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT! Now, let's talk about the story. At first, it feels kind of like a straight up retread of the original. A warrior loses everything, gets sold into slavery, becomes a gladiator, seeks revenge. It's all executed incredibly well, but it just undeniably feels familiar. But where the film really shines during all of that is in the action sequences. They're stunning, larger than life, and completely epic. But sometimes they go a little far. Remember the chariot battle from the first Gladiator? Raw, visceral, grounded. Contrast that with Gladiator 2, which features a naval battle in a flooded coliseum with sharks. Yes, sharks. Or a gladiator riding a rhino. Or, my personal favorite, slaves fighting a horde of baboons that look like they were genetically engineered. It's definitely fun, don't get me wrong, I had a blast in the theater, but it just kind of lacks that gritty realism that a lot of the action had in the original.
Well, that's just silly. Silly, yes. Idiotic, yes.
But when it's just some hand-to-hand combat, it really works. Especially this scene that you can see here that's in the trailer with Paul Mescal's character fighting Pedro Pascal's character. As for the score, Henry Gregson Williams does a solid job, but let's be honest, he's no Hans Zimmer. Maybe I might be biased because he's like my favorite composer, but the original soundtrack is iconic. Back to the story, once it deviates from following the same kind of formula as the first film and starts introducing some twists, I was so invested. The finale, in particular, is a thrilling sequence. So, what's the verdict? This doesn't live up to the original. I mean, how could it? It retreads familiar ground, goes over the top with some of the action, and leans a little too hard on some on-the-nose callbacks to the first one, but it's still a very strong revenge story with a great cast, a beating heart, some killer action sequences, and a standout performance from Denzel Washington. Big surprise there, I know. It may not have been necessary, but I was entertained! And that's my review of Gladiator 2. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this review, you know exactly what to do. I said it in the beginning. Please leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss any of my new reviews. While you're at it, you can scroll down in the description below, find the links to my socials, leave a comment, let me know if you saw this movie and what you thought. And if you want more of my content, you can click or tap on these cards right here. They'll take you to my review of Red 1, or just over to my channel where you can check out the rest of my reviews and my shorts. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next week when we round out the double feature of Gladiator.